Shana Tova. It was once told that after a long, hard climb up the mountain, some spiritual seekers finally found themselves in front of a great teacher. Bowing deeply, they asked the question that had been burning inside of them for so long. How do we become wise? There was a long pause until the teacher emerged from meditation. Finally, the reply came. Good choices. But teacher, how do we make good choices? From experience, responded the wise one. And how do we get experience? Bad choices, smiled the teacher. Friends, today I've chosen to share with you a treasury of conversations I've had with my daughter Noah over time. I have to admit, they tend to be one-sided, very one-sided. So here goes. Noah, while you are not yet even 2 years old, I know you are starting to understand more of what I say to you, even if I don't understand everything you say to me. But at this time of year, I want to tell you about what it means for us to be Jewish, and in particular this week about Yom Kippur. You won't understand everything I say now, but I'll say it anyway. Yom Kippur is a time to ask forgiveness, to say, I'm sorry for things we have done wrong, for mistakes we have made individually and as a community, and as a society. It's a concept that you will learn about in good time. It's a concept that I still struggle with. Noah, there are things for which I need to apologize. Forgiveness can only come when one apologizes. Our rabbis teach that we should train our tongue to say, I was wrong. Too often we consider it a sign of weakness to acknowledge the error of our ways. One of the reasons that our confession on Yom Kippur is in the plural for the sin that we committed is to lend each other support with this sometimes overwhelming challenge. Somehow knowing that we have all made mistakes gives us the courage to own up to our wrongdoing out loud. We are living in extraordinarily strange times. Hopefully, life for you as you experience it is normal. I hope that I'm able to shield you from most of the issues troubling the world, but there is so much going on around us for which I must apologize. Many of these things I'm not directly responsible for, but I feel responsible for them. I want to look at broader issues first. I was standing on our balcony, looking towards the Dandenongs, deeply concerned about our world, watching a flock of galahs flying by squawking. I almost started complaining about the noise and stopped short. Usually, I wouldn't be able to hear them over the sound of the construction, the trams, the hooting, the traffic. But I heard them and it was weirdly beautiful. Let's face it, galahs don't make the most beautiful of sounds at times. I believe in climate change. The planet is warming. The weather is changing. And I'm concerned that this gorgeous planet that we are leaving for you is fragile and fractured. I'm not personally responsible for all of it, but I know I haven't helped. I can do better by taking notice of my carved footprint. I don't need to go into details now, but I promise you I will do better. Al chet shechatanu, for the sins we have committed before you and in our communities by being so preoccupied with ourselves that we ignore the large problems in the world in which we live. I'm sorry, Noah, that women are screamed at when raising their voices in songs and praise at the Kotel, our wall in Jerusalem. You should know that when I was screamed at, I screamed back. I didn't cower. I stood tall in my 5'1" and suddenly I became one with our ancient history, my legs drawn down into the foundation stones built by our forefathers and foremothers. I felt at that moment that I had the protection of our prophets, our kings, our judges. Al chet shechatanu, for the sins we have committed by not publicly supporting the Jewish people in Israel when they are being treated or criticized unfairly. In some parts of the world, women still don't have basic human rights, never mind equality. Recently, I've been so distressed over what has been happening in the United States. A woman may lose the right to choose between keeping a fetus or having an abortion. A rapist may receive a shorter sentence than a woman who gets an abortion. Never mind the pay gap. That seems so insignificant next to the abortion issue. And in some countries, women don't and can't receive an education and can't drive a car. I am so grateful that we are in Australia and that you have equal access to education. I'm sorry that on average, still even here, that men still earn more than women. I'm sorry, I feel that I can't do much to change that. I hope it will change by the time you enter the workforce in whatever career you choose. Noah, thankfully you are living in the 21st century, a time when medical technology is incredible. Think about it, within a year, 1 year, numerous COVID-19 vaccines were not only developed, but have been distributed and are literally in the arms of almost 6 billion people around the world. But Noah, I'm so worried about those who live in poorer countries who have no access to healthcare, who have no access to the vaccine. We are privileged, and I can't apologize for that, and I won't. We are privileged to live in Australia. We want for nothing. I want you to have everything that I had growing up and every opportunity and more. But I do apologize for the greed in the world, the economic injustices and imbalance. It only seems to be getting worse. The gap between rich and poor is increasing, and the need for food security and hence water security along with it is even more serious. Who would have thought that water would be a commodity to be bought and sold on the stock market? I'm sorry, we don't have enough resources for mental health, especially now. Posting "Are you okay?" while important in highlighting the issues doesn't seem enough. COVID has only highlighted the tremendous toll lockdown, isolation, job insecurity, loneliness, family separation, uncertainty is having on us all. Even those of us who are strong feel weary and weathered. I'm sorry we still face family violence. How can it still continue? How many women and children need to suffer and die? How many elders and those with disabilities need to suffer abuse and neglect? And men are included too. We know that. Our society doesn't make room for mistakes and is especially critical. I'm sorry that our society hasn't allowed people to express themselves through their sexuality or gender and has been prejudiced and supercilious. There has been so much hurt and discrimination, and it needs to stop. I am sorry. And I'm sorry for all those things I don't even know about. Al chet shechatanu. Our Torah teaches us that we must not put a stumbling block before the blind. And at the same time, that means we must not turn a blind eye. Watching the mass exodus of flights from Afghanistan, so reminiscent of too many people's feelings, echoing the flight of people from oppression throughout the ages. I'm not looking forward to hearing the heroic stories of people walking to freedom. And at the same time, I know there will be stories of tragedy too. We know only too well what it means to struggle, to hide in attics in forests, to starve, to hide our identity, to pass our children to strangers for a better life. It's our responsibility to welcome the stranger, to provide food for the hungry, shelter for the homeless, education, healthcare, employment. It's our responsibility. When we are unwilling to work to our full capacity to ensure that people have safe housing, medical care, and food to eat. We also need to turn our need to apologize for failings in our more personal human relationships. There will be times, and there have already, I'm sure, when I will not be the best parent. All parents have those moments. If I forget to apologize when you're a teenager, I'm truly sorry. If I'm too proud to acknowledge that I could have been a better parent and been there for you, I am sorry. I will always try to be better in my humanness and in my humanity. And for the sins of having too little compassion or too little respect for our parents or for our children. There will be times when I won't understand your feelings and the feelings of others and what you are going through, no matter how hard I try. But it's never too late. Recently, I heard from a rabbinic colleague, Rabbi Karen Fox, who shared a story with me. She counseled a man in his late 70s who was recently prescribed ADHD medication, and he was struggling to stay focused. His son had struggled with ADHD all of his life. The father had been critical and angry at his son for not following through on things, his career, on projects, and so forth. He felt disappointed in his son. But now he was sharing how much the medication helped with clarity of mind. As he shared this story with Rabbi Fox, she told me he was in tears. He understood his son for the first time. It only took 60 years. And he wanted to apologize for not understanding, for not caring enough, for not seeming to do what he could. It's never too late to say sorry, to apologize. How do I apologize for the things I have absolutely no control over, yet I feel with the responsibility of previous generations and of my generation? What kind of a world am I leaving you? As a mother, as a woman, as a rabbi, I am an influence. I have street cred. I will do my best and I will fall short, and for that I'm sorry. And if I am wrong, I am sorry. I will try to admit it. But, and there is a big one, we know that saying sorry isn't enough. There needs to be action. We need to be accountable for what we do. We also need to find a passion and act on it. To apologize takes great leadership. It takes courage. It takes humility to know when to apologize. In our personal relationships, we must remember that when we must request to be forgiven, it's no small request. It's massive. It's costly to the person we have offended. When we forgive, and when they forgive us, they must give up their desire for justice. They must relinquish their hurt and anger, their feelings of embarrassment, and possibly even humiliation. They must give up their feelings of rejection and betrayal. Sometimes they must live with the consequences of our wrong behavior. Noah, I will ask our dear extended family at Temple Beth Israel today what language they will use, as I ask myself as we seek forgiveness on this holiest of days. We must not be afraid to do two things: to say, I was wrong, and to say, I am sorry. May we be blessed every day with the emotional maturity and the strength to acknowledge and accept responsibility for our wrongdoing. We make mistakes, we learn from them, we do better, and hopefully we are wiser. Va'al kulam Elohai slichot, salach lanu, nachal lanu, kaper lanu. For all these failings and more, forgive us, pardon us, grant us atonement. Gemar Chatima Tova.